Welcome to True Crime Mzansi, your gateway into the heart of South Africa's most gripping, mysterious, and chilling crime stories. We delve deep into the cases that have shocked the nation, from unsolved mysteries and high-profile investigations to the dark tales that lurk in the shadows of our cities and towns. Today's story is as follows. This is the story of Afetakeli Netshisalu and Mulalo Tshivhidzo, a quiet daughter of a well-respected pastor of the Lutheran Church, Mr. Tshivhidzo. She was believed by the community to be very intelligent, God-fearing and a singer of note. According to neighbors, former teachers, fellow church members and ordinary people in her home village, outside Thohoyandou, Mulalo was a proud woman, and looked down on poor people. Afetakeli was born June 3, 1975. He was extremely smart, passed high school in 1995, obtained degree from University of West Cape, Masters from Northwest, a Honours CTA from UNISA and MBA from a foreign university through a scholarship by Nelson Mandela Foundation. The couple were married in April 2006. On or about September 2006, Afetakeli introduced Mulalo with an old friend called Ntambudzini. For the purpose of this video we'll just call him Bud. Bud kept in touch with Afetakeli because they were going to be in a business deal, but for some reason unknown Bud had been in contact with Mulalo. He says Mulalo had been texting him ever since the meeting trying to get him to unalive her husband. He said Mulalo was going to give him 4,000 rand after he had done the deed and she collected on his life insurance. On December 7, 2006, Bud and Mulalo agreed to meet in a garage, where each of them will bring their own hit man to help commit the deed. When Mulalo arrived, she had been accompanied by a man known as Unraveled. This is the second hitman, and she was driving her husband's car. Bud and Afetakeli will later meet in the same garage. Afetakeli had arranged with Bud to take him to a squatter camp to help him look for a place to open a public phone business. This is the conversation they had started a few months ago when Afetakeli introduced Mulalo to Bud. So briefly she meets with Bud and Arnold. She goes back home to give her husband his car, and thereafter took her sister and mother-in-law for some shopping. The two had come in to visit the couple's new house. Later that day, Mulalo gets a phone call from Afetakeli informing her that there were two cars following him and that is concerned. They chat for a few minutes and they get off the phone with one another. Soon after, Mulalo starts to get concerned about her husband and decide to go look for him herself. She also calls the police and informed them about the situation and location. She is searching for him in the location he said he was at. When he mentioned that the two cars were following him, suddenly in the middle of the street she sees a car completely engulfed in flames. She sees the car and immediately knows it's her husband's car, and she thereafter informs the firefighters at the scene that they had to help her husband as he is stuck in the trunk of the car. At the time she uttered the statement, no one knows how she knew that the car was her husband's and that he was stuck in the trunk. His car was a VW City Golf. Whoever did it poured petrol all over the car and set it alight. His charred remains were found after a plot owner alerted the police that a car was burning near his property. Mulalo immediately blamed the police, saying their inefficiency was the cause of his death, saying that had they done something immediately her husband would still be alive. During his funeral there was a farewell message read on behalf of Mulalo. The message read, "They have taken you from me but they will never take your love away. I will always miss being in your warm arms because no one will ever replace you in my life. My love for you is so strong. I will never forget the weekend you took me away to different hotels and restaurants, not forgetting the time you took me overseas. God knows why you were taken away from me at such a young age." A pastor of the Uniting Presbyterian Church in southern Africa said that Afetakeli's blood would never stop screaming to his killers, that the smoke of his burning flesh would make them not to know peace for all time. It will not take a long time before they are busted because what they have done is barbaric, unhuman and unacceptable. According to police, a weird thing happened after Afetakeli's funeral. Mulalo sent a message to her father-in-law. No one could figure out what this message meant, but part of it read as follows: Part 1 has passed, we have to get to Part 2 now, the material part. Material puts us Christian into temptations and do evil things to get material. No one could make out what she was saying. 3 weeks after the funeral, Mulalo was arrested. She confessed to having a hand in the murder of Afetakeli. In her confession statement she said, she and her co-accused, Bud, met the first time through Afatakali. They started messaging each other. According to her, the messaging was just regular, nothing fancy, just normal things. One day she told Bud that her husband had been cheating on her. She says that Bud's idea was that why don't they unalive him and take his money, and she replied, well, he has a lot of money. She said that when he said that to her, she was in shock and asked him how was that going to happen. Bud was like, it's alright honey, no one is going to know. So around November 2006 Bud messaged her and said alright, everything is all set up. And then Mulalo saw her husband leaving in his car on December 2006, the day that he was supposed to meet Bud and Unraveled. When she got the text message from Bud, she knew that they got him, and that's when she called the police. She thereafter went out looking for him in the location he had informed her he was being followed, found the car. So Arnold was one of the men who Mulalo bought as hitman. Mulalo, Arnold, and Bud all pleaded not guilty to murder, kidnapping and damage to property. According to Bud, he said Mulalo promised to pay him 4,000 rand for the job, and she failed to pay him. When he attempted to call, her phone was off. He added on that she wanted her husband dead because he had a lot of money, and that Mulalo said she will organize 3 additional men. On examination and determination of cause of death, it was submitted that Afatakali sustained burns and he suffocated because of the fire. Also to testify was a social worker who told the court that Afatakali's mother said that Mulalo planned to kill him after he bought her the car and a house. Another thing Mulalo was questioned in the stand was when she arrived to the scene. She immediately stated it's her husband's car and that he was trapped inside the trunk. How did she know that he was there or that it was his car? How did she know he did not make it out? There were 5 witnesses that took the stand and testified that the car could not be identified as it was engulfed in flames, and they said that she did not drop a single tear and she was very calm at the scene of the incident. Mulalo alleged that her confession was coerced. The officer of course said like this is not true. She willingly waived her right to a lawyer and she said no, she was not only coerced but she was tortured as they had beat her, and on top of that she was like, I don't even know them like that. Talking about Bud and Arnold, right? She said that she don't even know Bud and Arnold like that and she ain't never even met Arnold, as she and Bud were not friends nor they were confidants or anything like that. According to her, she was just spilling her heart out to him, and then she told him as is a childhood friend, and he just mentions that he's going to just murder him. Afatakali. The prosecution were like, listen, your confession was pretty spot on to everything that everybody else has been saying. Basically what she was saying in her confession was corroborated by what other witnesses were saying. Then the defense showed to the court pictures of her wrist where there was some bruising, and a doctor came and testified that bruising was not from torture but from handcuffs. The prosecutor went on to say that everything that was said by Mulalo was corroborated by her co-accused Bud and Arnold. The prosecution went on the Bud statement which said that Mulalo wanted Afatakali unalived so that she can inherit all his assets. I guess that was the motive. The 3 accused, Mulalo, Bud and Arnold, were convicted on December 7 of 2010, the 5th anniversary of the murder. All 3 accused were sentenced on February 28, 2011, as follows. Mulalo was sentenced to a life sentence plus 8 years for unaliving her husband. The other 2, Bud and Arnold, were given life sentences for the unaliving of Afatakali. Arnold got additional 15 years and Bud additional 5 years. Afatakali's family welcomed the verdict and sentencing. This case was described as one of the most brutal unaliving case of all time. Petrol was poured to the car and Afatakali was burned, to an extent that his remains were found charred. A DNA test had to be done to determine his identity. Following the sentencing, Mulalo filed leave to appeal both conviction and sentencing at the High Court of Johannesburg. However, the court on November 2018 dismissed her application for leave to appeal. Subsequent to the High Court dismissal, she filed an application for the leave at the Supreme Court of Appeal in Bloemfontein. Such was granted on December 2012. In her appeal before the Supreme Court of Appeal. In her appeal, Mulalo had raised a number of contentions regarding the manner the trial was conducted. She was also challenging her conviction on following grounds. The confession should not have been admitted due to her allegedly being tortured. Her constitutional right to legal representation was not complied with, and the state and the court should not be permitted to delay the matter such that the right of appeal is thwarted. Mulalo also challenged her sentence on the grounds that the court misdirected itself and imposed an unjust sentence. The appeal court found that the trial court in the exercise of its discretion on sentence took into account relevant factual findings such as the fact that the deceased died a cruel and painful death. It ruled that there was no material misdirection on the part of the trial court in both the conviction and the sentence imposed and ruled as follows. The state successfully proved beyond a reasonable doubt that Mulalo was not coerced nor tortured into submitting her statement, as various state witnesses, including a doctor, corroborated each other's versions that she had no visible injuries. The fact that she never laid a criminal charge of assault against the people who she alleged assaulted her weighed heavily against her so-called defense of torture. She was the only one at the scene of the crime that was certain that the charred remains found in the boot of the vehicle were that of her husband, though DNA tests were yet to be conducted. Cell phone records between Mulalo and accused one clearly indicated that they were updating one another about the progress of their plan. The trial court was correct in arriving at the conclusion that the text message sent by Mulalo to her father-in-law, wherein she said, "Materials put us Christians into temptations and do evil things to get materials for this world," amounted to evidence aliened, i.e. no other meaning could be derived from her statement. That there the trial court did not misdirect itself in finding that the murder was premeditated and was therefore justified in sentencing all accused to life imprisonment. The court also said what was aggravating was the fact that this plan was executed while the deceased's mother and little sister visited and she exposed them to the gruesome sight. According to appeal court, the sentence was justifiable and fair, with no substantial and compelling circumstances present to reduce the minimum sentence of life imprisonment. To this day Mulalo remains in custody serving her life sentence. It is not really known where Mulalo is currently serving her life sentence. However, in 2024 it was reported in a newspaper article that she was located at the Female Center in Johannesburg Management Area. She is apparently a PhD student. That concludes our look into this haunting case. If you found this story compelling, please like this video. It will help our channel immensely. For more deep dives into the crimes that have shaped South Africa, subscribe to True Crime Zancy and hit the bell so you never miss a story. Until next time, stay aware.